Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. Each episode will bring you in-depth discussion with experts, community leaders, and analysts who will share their insights, experiences, and predictions. From local elections to global diplomacy, we'll provide you with the tools and perspectives you'll need to navigate today's real-world landscape.
Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. I'm Lisa Chafee, and joining me today is my co-host, Michael Nash.
Hello, hello.
So we thought we would do something a little different this time because it is officially Pride Month. And there's been a lot of discussion on social media, on the news, and I thought it would be really fun and enlightening to bring in a couple of our friends from the Log Cabin Republican Club and just have an honest, frank discussion about Pride Month, the pros, the cons, do we need it or not, and go from there. So we have Gerardo and John. Thank you both for joining us. So just to give our listeners a little bit of history who may not know, and we were talking beforehand that even a lot of people, you said, within the LGBT community don't even know the history. A lot of this got started 1968, 69 with the Stonewall riots, and Pride they had a parade after the riots, and I encourage everybody to really research that and then look it up on your own. But
69 in New York.
Yeah, in New York. Right. Now, full disclosure, I'm not gay. So I have no idea what it's like to be gay, what it's like to fight for civil rights. I am very much pro-gay marriage, same-sex marriage. I believe you should be afforded the same rights as the rest of us because I really believe God created you to be the way he wanted you to be. So, but Pride Month, June 1st, I got to tell you, I log into my work computer and I'm in healthcare. Yeah. And the first thing I see when I log into I work remotely, their system is we celebrate Pride Month. And it really makes my blood boil because I feel like it's no longer about fighting for your civil rights. It's about something completely different. So, Gerardo, tell me your thoughts.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like, I call it like gay fatigue. I mean, pushing all that on everyone. And I just thought about that when you said your job is pushing it. But do they push that for every other month celebration? Like,
no.
Hispanic Heritage Month, you don't have a whole, they don't do that.
No. Black History Month, but not anything else.
Those are the only major ones. And we talked about that. It's like, okay, what about the other people? When do you stop? And we said, how many months do we have in a year?
Right.
Who are we going to give them to next?
Right.
Well, yeah. And John, for our viewers who can't see, so you're kind of a double whammy because not only are you gay, you're black.
Right. Correct.
So what is your experience? What is your thoughts on this?
I feel like it's this, when I first found out that they decided to make a month Pride, for our culture, I was actually kind of shocked. And then I was taken back because I finally was like, okay, they finally decided to recognize it. But then I started, realizing that like what me and Gerardo were talking about, that I feel like there's this too many months, and I feel like it's more or less like a division, in that we don't need a month to actually, recognize our actual, our culture. Why do we need something to represent us as far as a month go? For the longest time, I never understood why we even had Black History Month. When it was first started, I understood, but here it is 2025, and you can look at stuff on TV, and now they talk about more or less stuff that, that Blacks maybe within like the last 20 years, and they'll tell their little story of this or that. To me, that's not history. Okay, no. So if you don't have if you can't basically explain to the youth now the true Black history, let's just get rid of it. But as far as like Pride, it's like I was so taken back, and I'm like, this is silly. We don't really need one. We don't really need an actual a month to recognize that we are gay. We know we are. We don't need nothing like that at all.
Well, here's my argument, and this is what I've just been kind of repeating every chance I get on social media is who you're attracted to is a secondary characteristic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's focus on having good character
Exactly.
and celebrate that.
Exactly.
And you said something, John, about the culture, what they're teaching during Pride has nothing to do with what the people before us did for
Exactly.
us today as
You're
rights
right.
as a gay and lesbian people. I mean, they were not parading naked and doing all that stuff.
Exactly.
Like that video was disturbing to
Yeah.
even children to be in the presence. And as an educator, it's disturbing to watch the adults behave like that in front of children.
And
Right.
the last thing we need to be doing is confusing our kids. And what adults do in the bedroom should not be anything that a kid should actually know at all.
Exactly.
You're
Gay or
confusing
straight.
them. Yeah, you're
Exactly.
confusing gay or straight. And I when I first started seeing that type of stuff in, the pride parades and stuff like that, I quit going because I'm like, this is sick. And, a lot of my family members who are very supportive of me and this gays and, pride could not understand until I had to explain to them, this is sick, what they're doing. I don't think, for one, it's appropriate for a child. And then two, even grown adults, I don't want to see that. This is stuff that acts that people should either go see either, in a nightclub or any of that
Right.
stuff, but not in
It's
in
adult
not in-
entertainment.
it's
Yeah.
adult
It's adult-
entertainment. Yeah.
Well, it's even beyond that. So for our viewers, I encourage you to check out Gays Against Groomers on either Twitter or Facebook. But they have a wonderful a public service message, really.
Yeah. Yes.
And it shows snippets of footage from various pride parades around the country. And granted, not every pride parade is filled with what we saw in this video.
It's
However,
worse.
this one, and some is probably worse.
Been
It's
to
worse.
few.
Yeah.
It's
But what's in there?
Disturbing.
We see furries. We see people in
Yes.
S&M bondage. We actually saw in one scene a man receiving oral sex from somebody else in public on the street. That has nothing to do with being prideful.
Exactly.
It's a fetish.
yeah, it's
Very
That
disturbing.
these are all sexual fetishes that are
Exactly.
coming out, and I feel like this is what makes me angry. Is I feel like the QT plus portion of LGBTQ has hijacked the movement
Yes.
and
Agreed.
has set you guys your movement back decades
Yeah.
because we are seeing more homophobic rhetoric on. I don't want to say it's homophobic.
no,
It's hateful
It's hateful.
towards the behavior. I don't
it's
think
not even the. You're right. It's the behavior. It's not the person
Yeah,
or because you're gay or
exactly.
lesbian. It's the act what you're doing. It's not appropriate for anybody.
Well,
Right.
and most of us do not care. Most of us
Yeah.
who are straight, we don't care what you do. Now,
Exactly.
I will say this: there are people who are they claim to be devout Christians who use the Bible, and I am a Christian. But again, I think as I said, God created everybody the way He wanted them to be, to justify denying you your rights or saying or you were touched by the devil or
Right.
those people I don't agree with either. But when it's constantly in our face,
Oh, I
and
totally
I'm sorry,
understand.
being gay doesn't make you any more special
No.
than
Exactly.
anybody else.
Right. Yep.
It's just you. Just be who you are.
And I think they I don't want to say they, but the majority of the gay and lesbians, and I want to even take it further as the Democrat gay and lesbians. I mean, they manufactured this oppression, and I think that's a slap
Exactly.
in the face of the people of
Yes.
your skin color and mine, what we went through.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And that it was one thing that really ticks me off.
It ticks me off too.
So-
Exactly.
And what
Yeah.
is that? It's almost like the Democrats have taken over.
Oh yeah.
Like they've adopted LGBT,
Right.
everything.
Yeah,
and it's like,
exactly.
well, we
That's
have
their minority. That's
Republicans that
their
are also,
yeah.
manufactured oppression.
Almost 30 years ago, Democrats was never for that at all.
Right.
I think the turn and the change of that was during the Obama era. He was asked at one point if he support gay marriage, his first term, and he said no. He kind of it was when he danced around the question, and it was basically a no. And then it seemed like during his second term, he knew that the only way that he could be able to get that support is to go ahead. And then that's when it was like, the culture got hijacked by the Democrat. And now it's one of those things where, if you are gay, you're expected to vote Democrat. Same thing
Same
with
for
black.
being black.
If you're black, you're expected to vote Democrat. Yeah.
If you're black, what was it Biden said? If
you're-
you don't vote Democrat, you
You're
ain't
not
black.
Yes, I remember. Yeah,
I was
lines,
just,
I was
so,
like, oh my God.
It's so condescending.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. The stories that I hear, although I'm not a fan of Obama, but he did do one good thing, which I thought was repeal the don't ask, don't tell, because I have no problem whatsoever with LGB serving in the military.
Right.
Now, I know him,
you
being
probably
a
have
former
spoiled.
She's
Marine,
pointing to me.
he's
Yeah,
coming from
yeah.
a different perspective.
Right.
Because I think, granted, I've never served in the military, but I think if you
how
have,
was it? I would like to
Well,
know how was it?
Okay, so I served in the. I was in two services. I was in the Navy and I was also in the Marine Corps. And I did most of my service in the early 90s. I was in the Marines. I was deployed. I deployed to a couple
Can I
different
interrupt
places.
you real
Sure,
quick?
please.
I want to tell you thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
I was in the early 90s. So this stuff was just kind of coming out. We knew
no
that.
pun intended.
Yeah, no kidding. there's no closet in there, Foot Locker, whatever, Conex box. But there's just stuff kind of coming out. And we kind of did. We thought people were, but didn't really matter.
Right.
Even being deployed with, I thought people might be. They were. This is back before it was still a very coveted discussion. People didn't really trust other people to worry about it. There was still some. A lot of old guys that didn't like that, really thought it was a problem. And it somewhat can be a distraction.
Yeah.
Just like having women in combat. During my time, they started having more women in more combat roles. It is a distraction.
How is it a distraction, though? Is it the thoughts running through your mind that you, being a straight man, are concerned that a gay man might wanting to have more than friendship with you?
Well, yeah. I mean,
or
a little bit, but also too, it's like, okay, this is weird. This is digging down. Okay, that guy's better work with me here. So how often do you shower in front of men?
never in my life.
Okay,
that's what.
So that's when a straight man showers in front of what possibly might be a gay man, it feels like they're showering in front of women.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's what I was going to say. You hit on the spot. That's exactly what it is.
And I can almost relate with him as far as with the
because I'll be looking at you showering.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
I mean, it's right. I mean, it's just
right. It's normal.
Natural.
It's a normal average thing. Yeah.
I can't remember I can't remember her name. The actual Olympic swimmer and the whole mess with the
Riley Gaines.
Riley Gaines, yes, and she was talking about the transgender that was changing. That would be so awkward. And I know we're kind of getting off of it.
Yeah, no.
But so I can kind of relate with him as far as with
so that makes sense.
a straight guy taking a shower with, in the same room. I would feel uncomfortable. I'm a gay guy, and I would feel comfortable just taking a shower around other gay men, not alone. This, so it's not. I can see that.
It's very much like that. And
it is.
Depending on what barracks you're in, depending on what situation you're in, out in the field. All right. So in the barracks, there's all kinds of different configurations. Sometimes there's a large room with a bunch of shower heads along the wall. It's like prison. Other times it's more compartmentalized rooms. You have stalls with curtains.
So you have privacy.
Sometimes you had different things. Right. When I was in Somalia, I was deployed in Somalia. Hadn't had a shower in a month. And it was normal back then, and nowadays that seems unheard of. I'm older, so we basically I took baby wipes with me, and I used baby wipes for most of my cleaning of things for the first month or so. We were pretty ripe after a month, so we're like, as long as we're getting wet in water and soap, no one really cares. And we're all men out there because we're in a combat MOS, so there's no other women around, right? They brought a shower truck. And they had special water that they had gathered locally and filtered so that we can shower with it. And essentially, you stripped down and got in line. And then you went through a line. You had 3 minutes. And if you didn't complete everything, then you had to get back in line again.
Now, mind you, you're naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
out in the middle of the field, out in the middle of nowhere. You could be out and,
Yeah.
it was at night, so it wasn't like you see for miles and miles, but you're in the middle of nowhere. You have no covering, you have no privacy. You just strip down, you go take a shower.
Right.
And if somebody, we weren't looking because we're like, like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. I'm using
You're
the
afraid
blind.
to look or
I'm using the
say-
blindfold or hand gesture here, but nobody looks. But if somebody ever, and one of the scary things, if somebody caught somebody being excited, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Right.
That's gonna be somebody's getting beat up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So
But that's still an individual issue, I think.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, back to my point, I don't have a problem with LGBs being in the military. Now, the Ts, I do, because first of all, they're not mentally stable. I mean, they have all these emotional problems going on anyway, but they have to take these medications, the hormones, they don't let diabetics serve.
So let me finish on that.
What?
Sorry. Getting back to my point. So it's a distracting environment because you're so worried about so many things.
All right.
Staying alive, shooting people, all these things you got to worry about. You don't want to worry about that.
Yeah.
You don't worry about being impressed by somebody else. You don't worry about, those kind of feelings. You don't worry about that in a field environment.
Exactly.
And that's why it's a distraction. So that's why it's a distraction.
Okay.
So
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine, but I believe as a gay man, I would not even be thinking about another man if I'm in combat. Well, born and raised, well, it's off topic, but
a lot of military people are very homophobic.
Yeah,
Right.
they are.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you imagine having, 500 homophobic people together.
Right.
Then the one who's not
Yeah.
gets questioned.
Well, I was born and raised in East Los Angeles, like
Okay.
in the hood. And we were just talking about that, and sometimes like these people online push my gangster and, but I know that's not me anymore. But a lot of the gang members are homophobic. I mean, I grew up around that. I mean, but when I came out and told them, they were very okay with it. I think because I respected their masculinity or their straightness, and I knew that they're hands off. I knew my place.
Now back in Garrison, like we're all back in the block. We're all working. We all go to work every day. We live in a house of our own. It's like never ever a thing.
Yeah.
It's like not even a problem. Nobody ever thinks about it. The only time where people really think about it is when we're all living together. We're all like having bunks next to each other. We're all, are showering together, all of these things together. And that's when you kind of form that bond as a unit. And it's distracting. Just like having a bunch of us guys together, having a woman there was distracting.
Yeah.
Because then it starts with women anyway. It's like posturing. Like all the guys are posturing to try to impress her. They try to get with her, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Having a gay person there will probably be kind of the same thing, especially have more than one.
Yeah.
So so it's I served during that time period. Nowadays it might be different. I don't know. Sorry, I'm good.
No, you're fine.
So maybe back on that, maybe we should just come together. We're just coming together and focusing on one thing only, not like other individual stuff. Like
Well, one day,
you're in the field.
have you guys seen that movie about the what's it called? They had the bugs. They had the U.S. And also the Earth military fighting the bugs. What movie was that?
It's a Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Notice that shower scene. Everybody was together, and
Yeah.
nobody thought it was weird.
Yeah.
There'll be eventually come a point where that'd be
Well,
a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on this, but I kind of think the more you keep talking about it and the more you keep trying to push it, the less you're going to normalize it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. And and how they're coming at it. I mean, like as a gay person, I understand pride, but watching those people like naked in front of children and doing that oral stuff, that's totally unacceptable.
That's very unacceptable.
Well, and pushing it in our schools.
Yeah, in your school, and just pushing it at your job. It's like really, I don't give a shit about.
And you're a teacher.
Yeah, I don't want, like, the librarian had a pride flag in her, and the librarian was like, "What is that for?" I mean, as a gay person, it offends me.
Well, this is what I have been arguing with so many people for years now. With fighting for parents' rights and education, I firmly believe our schools should be completely neutral. A student should never know what a teacher's ideology is, religious, political,
Relationship,
Exactly.
any
what the
relationship.
relationships
Exactly.
are. And I understand wanting to support a group of students, but when you signal out one group of students, you're alienating the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I have had so many conversations with parents, with students from middle school all the way up through college, that they know, like if they're going to write a paper and that teacher is very much pro-LGBT or pro-Democrat, or
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
should say pro-liberal, or they're
Right.
pro-BLM, they know what not to write. They don't honor their true selves
Right.
and write what they really think in their papers for fear that they're going to be failed, they're going to be
Oh,
ostracized.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's what this pride thing does. It starts forcing you to think not a different way, their way
Yeah.
or no
Exactly.
way.
Yeah.
You know, like I would be upset if I go to work at the school district and there's a freaking pride flag on my computer screen, and then you didn't do that for everybody else. I would be extremely pissed off.
Well, yeah, I mean, every month is something different.
Yeah.
But
Right.
John, you mentioned earlier about there's so many days throughout the year. So I've got the calendar pulled up from GLAD.
Oh, yeah.
So it starts in February.
Right.
February
with National Black HIV Awareness Day, Aromantic Spectrum Awareness Week.
Aromantic
I have no
spectrum.
idea
I
what
knew
that
there was
is.
a
I'm going to
Black
have to
HIV
Google that.
Day.
Oh, yeah.
HIV is not a crime awareness day,
Right.
and we know, it's primarily the homosexual community that's affected by HIV.
Well, no, it's everyone.
Then you go to March. You got bisexual health awareness, National LGBT health awareness, and it just goes on all the way through April. You've got International Asexuality Day.
Yeah.
International Asexuality Day.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
insane.
It's insane.
But they don't even have
Interestingly
sex.
enough, International Family Equality Day.
Right.
Okay. International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and
It
Biphobia.
almost makes you wonder. I don't mean to interrupt you. If
No.
there's one day out of the year that there's no special day going on, because I
Exactly.
mean, we've as Americans, it seems like we've come up to make sure that there's something every freaking
Yeah.
day, right down to this naming. Like we were just talking about how like they got all these various days for like donuts and then for like candy and I mean
It's
silly stuff.
Pizza Day, hamburger day, ice
Chocolate
cream day.
cake day.
And,
there's
yeah,
cookie
and then
day.
and then what'll happen is like I was telling Gerardo when we was coming out here, I said, what happens when these days start getting or these days or months start getting shared with the other one, and then you get people who get upset. You know?
yeah.
Yeah, like somebody will say, I don't want my pizza day to be shared with your donut day. Or I
Right.
don't, that's
Okay.
what we're going to end up running into.
Well, here's
Yeah,
an
especially
interesting
with the left.
Here's an interesting thing that's happening at the State House right now. I don't know if you heard about it. Representative Beth Lear has introduced a bill to declare from Mother's Day to Father's Day Natural Family Month.
Okay, is that okay? I saw.
It's
is
not
that
a law yet.
but it's
They're
a
working on
real
it.
thing.
It's a real thing that they want to declare that. And I kind of feel like, I kind of get where Beth. This is what I'm afraid of. Is the pendulum is going to swing too far to the
Correct.
right now.
That's what I'm about to
Yeah.
say.
So I feel like this is kind of a slap in the face against the LGB and against people like me who are single parents.
Right.
We don't need it.
No. Right.
Now they're playing the games they're playing, which is freaking stupid.
It
know?
is.
You know,
Right.
It's,
right.
it's
they're playing
unreal.
stupid games.
Yeah.
And should there be a recognition for the LGBT? Yes, yes.
Right.
But the way they do it, it's not correct because you're turning people off. You're turning me off as a gay man. It's
Same
like
Right.
this.
here. Same
And-
here.
And the history is important. There's
It
a lot
is.
of history that contributed from
Right.
everywhere: whites, black, Latinos, gay, lesbians. But
Yeah.
we don't know about that because all they're promoting is that shit.
Well, yeah.
that-
And I feel like they promote stuff that they know is going to intentionally that they know is going to be a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember shortly after President Trump had got in office, I felt like they had went like headstrong to make it aware, like well, you guys might got your man in office, so when June comes and we have basically National Pride Month or whatever. we're going to make sure that everybody knows about it. So we're going to.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where you looked around. It's like I
was
felt like the
awful.
rainbow just threw up on everything. Like I went to the store and
hated
I
it.
saw, Listerine had the Pride, and they had the Pride, strip on it,
Oreo
and
cookies.
Oreo cookies. I mean, Pantene. I was like, what the. Can I say?
You're
yeah,
fine.
What
Yeah.
the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I thought, like, literally, like, I thought somebody had literally sliced open a bag of Skittles and just tossed it in the air, and it started raining, it's painting everything red. And I was like,
I got it.
and I'm not trying to be funny, but I really do
good.
think
No, you can be funny if you want to,
that
sure.
the gays just loved it because they were like,
It's
since
virtue
you guys,
signaling.
since America,
Yes.
it's virtual signaling, exactly.
That's exactly-
And I was like,
Yeah, and when gays
this
do
is
it, they
awful.
do it full force, and it's
Oh, they do it full
freaking
force.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I have
Yeah.
to say this about the gay community. Y'all got some flair.
Yes, yeah, a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Got flair.
Yeah.
But what I do respect Trump did, though, is cut funding
Yes.
for pride parades.
Yes.
Honestly, I hate parades,
Yes.
period.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they're over
The
any kind.
traffic.
4th of July,
Yep.
they should only be done for special occasions.
Yeah.
I was forced to the march inside of our Memorial Day parade in my hometown, and I hated it. My mom made me do it, and I said, I will never, ever be in a parade ever
I
again.
like
I was in
community
marching
parade. If it's
band.
a whole community
Same here,
parade,
yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it. I mean, why do they do a community day where everybody from the neighborhood marches, gay,
Yeah.
straight, black, and everything?
Yeah.
And saying that, like, the parades are awful. We're participating in Pride in Dayton. We have a booth there. And they told us, I don't know if I told you this, John, but they said, yeah, you can have a booth, but we cannot guarantee you security.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
Because you're Republicans?
Yeah, and gay. But they have security against the people who march that you're going to hell,
Yeah.
but not us.
See, that's BS.
They protect
I call
the
BS.
left.
So they're discriminating because you know what? When I first met you, one of the comments that you made to me, and it has really resonated with me, is you said it was harder for me to come out as Republican than it was to come out as being gay.
Yeah.
You too?
And we've talked about that before. And if we're at a point, I want to kind of segue to that, talk about that stigma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That it's hard about being gay, but now you're Republican and gay, and the Republicans sometimes have an issue with it because of religious stuff, and then the gay community has an issue for being Republican.
And in my experience, I don't know about you, John, but I have never come across any Republican being mean to me. And I've been to small
here.
towns
Same
in
here.
Ohio because, a part of being the president, I'm like recruiting all over the state of Ohio.
Right.
Yeah.
I go to small towns and I introduce myself as a person first, not as a gay,
Right.
but like I'm an American,
Yeah.
Right.
and then we start talking. It's like, oh, who do you belong with? And I tell them our chapter, who we are, and they were like, oh, well, I have a niece that's lesbian and gay. Maybe they should hear you.
Yeah.
So I don't go in there like with the whole rainbow flag waving.
Right.
Right.
I go in as a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we all should. This is what infuriates me. The labeling of everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody has, like
Same
with the
here.
pronouns.
Yes.
And then they say we don't like labels, but yet you have so many after your
Yeah.
freaking name.
Exactly.
Yeah. As,
Yeah.
again, secondary
Yeah.
characteristics. Before we get into the political stuff, I want to show you this video that Gays Against Groomers posted, and our viewers will be able, our listeners, I should say, not viewers, they'll be able to hear this, and then I want to get your reactions live. So, Mike, go ahead and play that.
Kind of setting this up. I mean, I haven't seen this video yet either, so we're going to get a live reaction from Gerardo and John. But this appears to be
A lesbian.
a lesbian talking.
Yeah, it says it's labeled "My wife and I don't celebrate Pride Month."
Right. So hopefully I've got this set up right and the audio comes through. I'm really hoping it will, but we'll fix it. I'll edit this out in case it doesn't work. So here we go.
June is Pride Month, and my wife and I don't celebrate it, so let's talk about it. We started noticing a shift like 10 years ago with the whole LGBTQ thing, and having to explain to our then underaged daughter what it meant for people to be walked on leashes and their fetishes being on display. We felt this is not an environment for children. We made the decision we're never going back to Pride. COVID made it better because they didn't have the Pride Fest, but it was heartbreaking to our then, 10, 15-year-old. It's heartbreaking for her because she loves rainbows and she's on the special needs spectrum. And to her, she just loves all the colors. We had to help her understand in just a very basic common sense way of why we could no longer go to those, because it was very uncomfortable for her to see naked adults walking around, even if you just had a little pasty on, or even if you had just a little G-string on. It's uncomfortable. My wife and I don't subscribe to that stuff. People here in Utah are all up in arms that they passed a law about not having anything other than the American flag on government buildings. So we spend and waste money to create a flag to go around the law? That's stupid. If you are looking to a flag to make you feel comfortable and not be a victim in a world that is actually very inclusive of LGBTQ whatever members, that's a problem in yourself, unfortunately. And there are ways to like resolve that, but you can't take an entire society and put everybody in the same lump and assume that if you don't like Pride Month, then you're a bigot. Or if you don't like this, then you're this. It's got to change. Pride Month to my wife and I means nothing to us now, because that group of people, including very dear friends of mine, have left my wife and I behind. So, happy June. Glad that it's summer, but not happy Pride Month.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Just
All right. So, John, what do you think?
I agree with her. You know, I 100% agree with her. I feel the same way that she feels. I mean, me and my husband, we have a grandson, and I was just thinking, you know, if his mother and his mom, his mom and his dad, they would definitely love to take him to, a pride parade, but I would not condone, taking him to, because of the whole G-string wearing, all that stuff. He's only 4 years old. He doesn't need to see stuff like that. No. And it's sad because, once again, I feel like they have diminished like what gays in the past have worked hard for us gays now to have in the future. It's somehow or another, this radical side of gays is hijacked it, and I feel like it's the adult performers, a lot of those ones, they felt like, I guess because, they decided to make a Pride Month, let's just go ahead and come out and be part of the Pride Parade and this dance half naked, and not care that in a world that there is children in here, there's children out here, there's all kinds of people out here that's witnessing this.
Yeah.
And even if it's not children out there, the stuff is being filmed live, because they show clips of it on the news.
Yeah.
And I'm almost certain, it makes me wonder if it's getting clipped or not, or if the news is now letting the show, just showing everything or whatever. But it's sad. It's really, really sad. And I agree with her 100%.
I think as a whole, our society, as it's gotten, and this is a whole other topic too, but we've gotten so far away from religion that we've become more hedonistic.
Exactly.
Gay and straight.
Yeah.
And now
definitely.
with what's happening really since the summer of 2020, which George Floyd just kind of opened that can of worms.
Exactly.
And you've got, like what we saw in that one video, it's fetishes. And you've got people trying to normalize pedophilia.
Yeah.
To where even the state of California now has made it legal for an adult male to have sex with a young, like 11, 12-year-old boy, all because they're the same sex. Again, it's condescending.
Yeah.
I had a friend whose daughter, this a couple years ago in 7th grade, there was a boy in her class, happened to be black, happened to be identifying as a female, and wore a skirt to school. And one day he's sitting in the class masturbating under his skirt. And she noticed it. Her friend noticed it. They reported it to the principal. And the principal's response was, that's just what they do.
No.
Yeah.
That's what the principal said.
Okay.
You have at it, Gerardo.
there you go, man.
Go ahead.
So as an educator, my gosh, so we're put to the ringer to take all these classes of the development of the mind of a child. There's some kind of abuse going on at home,
Right.
automatically, and that's anybody with common sense should know that there's something going on at home.
Well, they've turned this whole transgenderism thing into another fashion trend, I think. And it's really, now I know that there is a very small percentage of males especially who show signs at a very young age, like 3-4 years old, that and they are comfortable as they grow older with going through that process. It works for them. But that's a teeny percentage. What we're seeing now is happening in middle schools is that mostly white females from middle to upper class families. They're spending too much time on YouTube. These girls are going through puberty. It's already it's a horrible puberty for girls. I don't know what it's like for a boy, but for girls, it's a horrible experience because you've got outwardly changes that are happening that affect you, and then you're seeing videos of on YouTube of women in being whipped and chained and as part of these sexual fetishes, and they think, oh my God, if that's what it means to be an adult woman, I don't want that.
And as as working with children, and we study this, you can research it. In middle school age, that's the they call it the identity crisis in a child. If you were worked in middle school, you would know. I done it. It's like these kids, all of them are like psychotic, like they need to be medicated. But they're going through identity crisis. That's so normal for them.
Yeah.
And to do something that drastic, that young, no, because they're going through identity crisis, and that's part of the developing stage of the brain.
Well, and our brains aren't fully developed till we're 24, 25 years old, roughly. And then you factor in, this is a long drawn out conversation for what we're going on, but you factor in the other comorbidities, autism, depression, PTSD, sexual trauma. There's so many things. I think some of it, and this is maybe a simplistic answer, is our society has gotten so used to we want a pill to fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the going down the transgender route is the pill.
Right.
That's easier to deal with.
It's the money.
Than the money too.
The money.
Yeah,
But I'm thinking from the parent's perspective.
Correct.
It's easier to accept my child as being transgender than to accept maybe my daughter was sexually molested by somebody,
Exactly.
possibly her own father, possibly a family member. They don't want to have to deal with that.
Right.
And then now we see the celebrity that's happening with
Wait,
all
10
of
years
these.
from now, shit's gonna hit the fan when all these kids
Oh my God!
Oh, yeah.
And the ones who actually have the surgeries, I follow Scott Nugent, who was in Matt Walsh's movie. He became the famous trans man that's been out. I've actually met him a few times. I follow him on Facebook.
He's a nice looking man.
Yeah. But he calls himself a lesbian.
Yeah.
I think if he could detransition, he would, but he's gone so far down that path medically he can't.
Definitely.
But seeing him he describes the surgeries, and now I'm seeing even more detransitioners. I just saw another video today of a young man who did the estrogen. He was male to female. He detransitioned about 6 months prior to making this video after 4 years of being on estrogen and the side effects of it. And he delicately described some of the side effects. Was, he said down there it works, but not nearly as well as it should. Don't know if I'll be able to have children. He had the feminization surgery. And to think that these doctors are doing this to the kids.
Well, that's also they're part of their sick fetish as well.
Oh, exactly. And a lot of them are
I think
actually.
a lot of it's the sick fetish, and I think a lot of them are getting kickbacks from our government. I think our government is involved. That's personally what I feel.
Well, that's why they cut.
It's gotta be the money.
They cut it.
Yeah,
That's why
it's
gotta be the money.
They cut that government funding transition.
Yeah.
We're not doing.
Yeah,
that.
they're cutting it back. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
I did want to get back to the pride. thing.
Please, Les. I'm sorry.
So,
I digress. Sorry. There's so much I want to talk to you guys about.
The umbrella's huge for the. I mean, we brought that upon ourselves, and I take blame for it, and because I'm gonna say we, but I didn't do enough. I could have volunteered. Because there's volunteer for pride festivals. I mean, and I found this out because in our dating one, the girl that came to talk to us, she's on the board for the pride event in Dayton, and she's a Republican. And when I went to introduce myself to the office, she said, "Thank you so much for coming out." And then Tony wants to start volunteering, and that's how we start changing it from within. We have to.
Yeah.
And volunteering. So that's what I wrote down. That's how we can change it.
Yeah.
Because watching her, it is sad because, you and your David, Todd and I, you met Todd, like our kids love us.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure they would one day want to see what it's like in our life. But we don't want to take them to that.
I don't want to take them to that. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I don't want to
there
tell
was
them that
some-
that's what our
Yes.
history is, because they're going to be like, this is what they do. You know, I'm like,
Correct.
This is not us
And
at all.
we need to change it for a more family oriented
Yeah.
thing. I mean, because you have uncles, cousins, grandpas, everybody,
Yeah.
and you want something. Not that you don't want
Right.
that.
Yeah, you don't want the porn in front.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go back to the history a little bit. Share with us, 30, 40, 50 years ago, what life, of course, I know you weren't alive then, but you know the history. So going from then to now, what's the differences?
Well, my first Pride, I learned. Here's my history with Pride. I didn't learn anything about gay or lesbians going to Pride festivals. Not one thing.
You mean as far as people say like Harvey Milk,
Correct.
who helped? So what a
I
lot
had
of
to
people
figure
don't-
that out on my own.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that there was actually a civil rights movement
Yeah.
amongst the gay community.
Correct.
And Harvey Milk was one of the leaders of it out in San Francisco.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct,
And the pink triangle, what is that for? Where did it come from? From
Right.
the
Right.
concentration. I mean,
And you're from LA too,
Yeah,
so
I'm-
that it's more
Yeah, oh,
prevalent
yeah.
out there than it's
Yeah.
here.
it was a norm for me to be like, it was okay, you're gay, that's fine. But like, I didn't get the history. Like, nothing, not at all.
Really?
Like what the flag meant, none of that, which
Well,
is sad.
speaking of flags, this is what drives me nuts. I just Googled it. There's over 32 LGBTQ flags.
Yes. There is.
How do they
yeah.
keep them all straight?
Yeah.
I mean,
You're not supposed to.
okay. And then like, what if like me, I'm colorblind. Literally, I'm colorblind. I mean, I'm good with like the Crayola Basic 8, but if I can't tell like certain shades of things, it all looks like the same shade.
There probably
I
is a
can't
colorblind
tell.
gay pride flag.
It's like black.
Probably.
It's like
Yes,
black,
yeah.
white, red,
Yeah.
orange.
Well,
That's
and,
it. Yeah.
and so you mentioned the pink triangle, which started during the Holocaust.
Cost.
Yes.
And
Correct.
Hitler's Nazis put that on the gay
gays.
men.
Yeah,
The gay men.
Yeah, and then it transitioned, and you can Google it. I was reading about it earlier about how the first pride flag actually came to exist out of that, and that's why those colors were chosen. They
that was
kept
one
the
of the
pink. Yeah. I don't understand how the whole rainbow thing came into play, and I know a lot of Christians are really upset about that.
Because with the new beginning or something.
Well,
the rainbow-
that was the covenant
Yeah.
with God and Abraham. It's biblical.
Yeah.
But that rainbow has 7 colors, and the Pride rainbow has 6, or vice versa. I can't remember. It's interesting because, and I see a movement on social media, Take Back the Rainbow. Symbols mean different things to different people. The swastika was a holy symbol until Hitler came along.
and adopted it
It was
for
also, I think,
the Native Americans.
Native American symbol. So all these different flags, it all just screams out me, 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 me.
Well, yeah, and then the Native Americans or indigenous people call them, or whatever you're comfortable with, Two-Spirit people.
Yeah.
I mean, and they didn't parade any of that. They just knew that. They respected that, and that was it. I mean, it was just, okay.
I had
let's
thought they
move on.
took the rainbow from My Little Pony. You know.
Do you know what? That and like the Care Bears,
Yeah.
they were indoctrinated
Maybe.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do encourage, but you're right. I mean, we were talking about Black History Month. Same thing. I got to thinking about it because it always used to make me mad to see Black History Month. Because
yeah, John. So selfish.
yeah, I know.
You have 2
So
months.
till someone explained to me,
Yeah, 2 months. Yeah, you ain't got
Oh,
what?
so do I. I
Yeah,
got
you got
one
2
too.
months actually too. Yes. Yeah, you got 2 months also.
and I got to thinking about it when I was in high school when we didn't have internet. The only Black people we learned about in history class, obviously Martin Luther King Jr.,
Right,
great man, and the
right,
Civil Rights Movement,
yeah.
Malcolm X,
Right.
Rosa Parks,
Right.
Harriet Tubman,
Yep.
Booker T. Washington, and Frederick Douglass.
Right.
And that was just a very small section. We
a small
didn't
section.
hear about anybody else. I just learned a couple years ago about George Washington Carver,
Oh, wow.
Right.
a Black man from Tuskegee, Alabama,
Yeah.
who was, I can't remember if he was a slave or the child of a slave, but he had over 200 patents. And he's the one that he invented peanut butter, and he figured out how to take oil and make plastic out of it.
Right.
You know, we have so many. Our kids
So,
aren't being taught
Our
that
kids
history
are not,
either.
No, and I did some research too on, how the Republican Party got started, and then like who was the first Black Republican.
There was a
And I
few.
had learned at one time that we actually had not only Black slaves that were Republican, we also had Black congressmen that were actually in our government. Yeah, in the 1700s. And I was taken because they were all Republican, and I always just assumed that blacks was just Democrats way back when, even during slavery. And I did some more digging and did some more research to see who was the first, Black female Republican, and I have found out that there was a Black female Republican also. So, when I look back at, Black history, I'm thinking to myself, there is so much that they're not telling us. And I feel like Black history is just a fad also. They want to put their spin on what they want us to know.
Yeah.
And they're not really giving more details of, the true actual Black history. Like it's, there's Black history outside this,
Right.
politics. There's also Black history, that's even during slavery,
Right.
and that there was Republican, Blacks or whatever that were was slaves.
Yeah, so I just
So, yeah.
Googled it. So
yeah.
just for those history buffs,
Yeah.
According to the History Channel, Hiram Rhodes Revels was the first Black member of the United States Congress in 1870.
Right.
He was from North Carolina,
Right.
I do believe.
Yep.
So that is important to know. What
That's
people
important to know,
also
yeah.
don't know, and this is why I get mad about the
Well-
1816 project.
1618 project.
1619
Diff-
project.
1619? Okay. That was one of those centuries in there somewhere.
Slavery existed throughout the world, but they're not telling the whole truth,
Correct.
and because it doesn't suit their narrative. So
Exactly.
we do have to do better in our schools and our
Right.
textbooks and the curriculum and getting all of that information out to our kids.
Correct.
And again, let's provide hope by sharing these stories.
Yeah.
Right.
And I do think if I was a teacher and I was a history, which is what I would be a history teacher, and I'm talking about civil rights, not only am I going to talk about Black civil rights, I'm going to also talk about the LGBT civil rights as well, because
Right.
that is an important factor in our, not just socially, but politically as well.
And it's
still
part
a,
of the American history.
Right.
it is. It's
exactly.
part of our history, and it's probably never going to end in our lifetime. Unfortunately, this big debate, I get really upset with people who say, so it's 2015 that gay marriage, same-sex marriage was legalized.
Yeah.
And a lot of the far-right Christians like to say, that's when it all started. We gave them an inch, and now they're taking a mile. Maybe that's true. Maybe some people feel more brazen to come out. But the crux of it is as a society, we have standards. We have obscenity laws. Why are those obscenity laws not applied to gay people in these parades?
Exactly.
Again, condescending.
Yeah, any other month we'll be in prison or in jail for doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if I walk down the street buck naked, I'm going to get
Yeah.
arrested for
You sure
obscenity.
are. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If a
I think
white
I think it would get
You know,
cold
the-
first, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
If a white straight male was in his classroom masturbating, he would be expelled from school.
Exactly.
So we need to find that cultural shift
Right.
and to educate people. I don't know how to do that. There's no easy solution,
Right.
but the first step is talking like we are right now.
Right,
talking
exactly,
and, like I said,
exactly.
like, and volunteering and like doing for the board of, not the board of elections, the school board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
school
school
board.
You know, because I see the trend coming. You can see it coming, and I'm coming from a big city in California, and even when I first moved to Ohio, I saw it coming here, And I try to warn people. It's like, no, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the website for the National Education Association, the main thing that you see is the push for LGBTQ plus.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, in a classroom, let's focus on the 4 R's. Help these kids figure out who they are as individuals and characters, and stop making them label themselves and be assigned to a specific group.
Yeah, which is, I would never think of telling my students that I'm married to a man. Never. Like, that isn't, I mean, even when they ask me, are you married? Even though they see a ring, I was like, no, I just like wearing a ring. I live at home with my cats.
Okay, so
But you're also middle school too, right?
Elementary
school. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
so if you were in middle or high school, would you?
No, because I've done middle and high school here in Columbus at East High School. East High School.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I worked there, and no, even I didn't tell them.
So that's an interesting topic, because what if you were straight? Would you say, yes, I'm married?
No. And I told that to one of my coworkers. I was like, I don't think it's anyone's business.
Well, no, it's not.
We're here to teach these kids, which they're already behind. And the reason, because I grew up in poverty, lower income. I mean, I know what these kids' struggles are going to be.
Right.
I was like, they don't need to know our freaking life.
No.
They
No,
need
they
to know
don't.
how to.
Right.
I go, maybe afterwards, but right now, teach them how to read, write, and all that stuff and spell, and that's it.
Yeah, I think about it when I was in school. I never knew anything about my teachers' outside lives.
No.
Except for one, because I was his babysitter. I babysat his kids. But outside of that, teachers might talk about, if they did a fun trip or their dogs.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Or their
teachers
kids.
or their kids.
Their kids. Mostly their kids. You hear that.
Yeah.
But it's none of their business. Now, if the parents would ask me, I would be honest with them. And I was saying respectfully, I don't want your kids to know.
Yeah.
I'm here to teach your kids, not.
I wish more teachers were like that,
Yeah.
because I see on Gays Against Groomers teachers
Gosh,
posting,
what?
with the purple hair,
Yeah.
and you want to color your hair like an Easter egg, okay, whatever. But there was one I saw the other day. She had a big rainbow fluffy hat on,
And I'm pretty sure kids know I'm probably gay. They probably like, oh, Mr. I think is. I don't know. Maybe because there's.
Well, in elementary school, they probably honestly
They
don't
probably
even think
care
about
that.
it.
You're right.
don't
You're
care.
right. You
I
know
don't
what
even
they
think
do?
they think about it.
You know what? They only ask about is my cats.
There you go.
Yeah.
They don't care anything
Yeah.
about me or anything like that.
But you taught high school before, right?
Yeah, in high school. Yeah.
Do they ask there or?
Yeah,
Usually
high school is very different.
Yeah, usually
They're
it's
very
high
nosy.
school
They're nosy.
They're
They're
very nosy. They're very
Yeah.
inquisitive. Yeah.
I said, I don't ask your parents.
Yeah.
You need to do your work. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not here to teach you social skills. I'm here.
And I'm
to,
sure they're gonna probably get on Facebook and let's see who he's actually married to.
Yeah.
Let's see
Right.
who he's dating. Yeah.
Well, when I did high school, it wasn't like that.
Well,
really?
No
when
social
I was in
media.
high school, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
Well, there was internet, but there
when I
was
was
no.
same here when I was in high school,
Which
we
I'm
didn't have
glad.
internet, yeah.
Yeah.
We had the old-fashioned typewriter.
Right.
Did you have a phone that did this with the dial?
The rotary dial.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
No,
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put that on my cell phone once. I had a rotary dial on my cell phone.
But you
Oh,
know
yeah.
what? I take that back. I did come out to my students at the end of the school year, and there's a reason why. We're in Columbus area, Hilliard, and we have a lot of Somali population, Muslims, and the kids would say, all gay people should be beheaded. To me, and I didn't say anything. Now, mind you, I'm a gay man. So they would say that, and they mean it. Like, they cannot, they shouldn't be alive, and mean things. So this, when we got to the end of the school year, we had like a picnic, and I told them, oh, by the way, Mr. Gonzalez is gay. And they apologized, and they saw gay people differently after that. Like, I am so sorry, I had no idea. Like, they thought they were just evil and just one.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know.
But that's education, though.
Yeah, it is.
Being
That's
That's-
education.
Yeah. And you led by example, so
Correct.
they took the time to get to know you as much as a
they
student
cried.
can
Like, they
get to
cried
know.
saying, we're sorry.
Well, and that's what infuriates me is when I see, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but the LGBT for Palestine. I'm thinking to myself, do you not realize
Yeah.
if you set foot in that area,
Gosh, in
with the exception
Somalia.
of Israel,
Yep.
if you go to any Middle Eastern country, you can and would be killed for being gay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm actually a veteran of Somalia.
You said that earlier.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
had a whole
so-
conversation about that.
Yeah, which
I'm gonna all these shows running together now. I'm like, okay, I gotta
but-
get new notes.
So and that's
You know?
the only time I
Yeah.
came out to my
But that
students.
was a great teaching
that's good.
moment.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you did it in a way non-confrontational.
Correct.
Which I can't ever see you really being confrontational with anybody unless your life was on the line or something.
He is from East LA, so
Well,
this is
I
true.
left that lifestyle. But, people test me. I was like, and here's what I say: Lord help them.
That's well, you know what?
Because-
Down
yes.
south, what we say? Bless your heart.
Right.
Because if they come with to me like that,
Yeah.
they're gonna get it.
So
Sure,
we're
yeah.
about out of time. So what message would you give to anybody who supports the idea of taking children to Pride this month?
John, you want to go for it?
I would actually I would suggest that they watch the video that we watched earlier,
which was on Gays Against Groomers site.
Groomers. Yes, definitely, because that to me right there should be a reality. You know, check for them like, okay, this is not acceptable for young kids, and that even if you are far left, liberal or whatever you want to call yourself or whatever, think about the child. Think about this child, because this child should not be seeing stuff that grown adults actually are doing at all whatsoever. And that's my takeaway. As far as with Pride, I don't think that it should be anything for little kids, children, maybe I would say the teenage years or something like that. Someone even under the minor age, I would say 16. That's okay, because they're going to go to a movie and they're going to see grown adults kiss, and they're going to see all this stuff. They're experiencing this as they're learning. But someone who is like under the age of that, or under the age of 12 or even younger, no, they should not be seeing stuff like that.
Well, I say that age, they're babies.
Yeah.
They're beautiful because of their innocence.
Right.
They're enjoying life because
Exactly.
they have that innocence.
Yeah.
So let's let them keep those rose-colored
Exactly.
glasses on and enjoy that until the time comes down the road that
Right.
they have to be hit with that.
You're right,
Yeah.
and that's very important.
that is
as
very
a
important.
teacher, I'm telling you that innocence, gosh, it's extremely important because
Yeah.
what kids see these days, they shouldn't be seeing.
They shouldn't be not.
And I know it because I hear it, I see it, I work with these kids, and it's like, it's heart wrenching.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It is.
is.
And I don't think our community is not ready to welcome families yet.
really,
We're not ready
No.
until we start. I mean, some kind of like family day for Pride. You know what I mean? Like a family day because it's sad that she can't take her family. Like it makes me
You
sad
need
that
to have a family-friendly
yeah,
event.
it's sad that we can't take. Even though our kids are grown,
This is no different than taking your child to go see adult porn.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
adult porn.
Yeah.
and
That's exactly what it
you
is.
wouldn't. I mean, as heterosexuals, there's no way you're going to be doing that.
no.
No.
And if there is, and if you
Oh.
are, you will be questioning your parents.
Yeah, and
It's
it's so sad because if straight people did exactly that, you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
would be arrested right off the
Exactly.
bat.
People be getting killed.
You'd be killed.
Exactly.
You'd be arrested. You'd be chained. But you got these gays that get to do it for the whole entire month, and you got some of them. They're so selfish. This is my month. I'm going to go ahead and do whatever I want to do, and that's how they think in the back of their mind, and they're not thinking about the children. You got drag queens who are reading story time to little kids. And that right there in itself is this disgusting. Like you're confusing the child because the child sees this big old giant man with these fake boobs. Then he goes home to his mom and dad, and he'll say, "Dad, I just saw a person the same height, but it was a woman. He was taller than
And we
mommy."
know-
And you're confusing them.
And we know drag queens, the majority of them, they're pretty nasty. I mean, like
Yes.
drugs, sex.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a video whenever someone starts calling me out on social media about, well, she doesn't like drag shows.
They're for adults. They're
so
fun.
they're for adults.
They're for adults,
I like the drag of what we saw in the Robin Williams movie, The Birdcage.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I've never been to a strip club, nor do I don't want to go to a straight strip club. I'm certainly not going to go to a gay one.
Exactly.
But in this video that I showed, it's a famous drag queen, Kitty Demore, and I think she's from here in Ohio. And she explains it very detailed what goes on behind the scenes. And if you don't,
she's right.
It is not for children.
No.
So if you want to be supportive of the gay community, find a safe way to do it.
Right.
Shop their businesses.
Right.
Be friends with them.
Yeah.
But don't take your kids to this
Exactly.
stuff. It's just nonsense. We've run out of time, so I want to thank our Log Cabin Republican friends, Gerardo and John. I hope we'll have you back again to carry
thank
on
you.
some of these
Thank you.
conversations.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're going to we have an event Saturday. We're going to be at Pride. We have a booth, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow
So let's after
Plug
after
them real
June.
quick. So you're going to be at Pride at where?
It's in downtown Dayton, Ohio. We'll be at Pride. We have a booth 84.
The Log Cabin Republicans.
Yes.
So we'll be there.
So don't be afraid to go say hi.
Yeah, and if you're
Just don't be
security, please
hating.
stop.
Don't be hating on
hating
them.
because, well, I'll be kind.
And not,
you know what?
security in drag. Security with
let's-
with an outfit on, not that.
Let's truly be diverse and inclusive and accept the idea that not everybody who disagrees with you hates you.
Correct.
Right.
You know,
Correct.
and talk to people and find
Yes.
out. Gentlemen, I want to hear back from you at the end of the summer, after June, and let's revisit this topic again and see how it went
Yes.
for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
This has been Straight Shot Politics.